Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this wonderful opportunity to meet the directors for our discovery programs for first semester study abroad with Syracuse University. I'm delighted to be joined by a number of colleagues today, and we're going to share some wonderful information about each of their centers and each of them individually. We're really proud to have this opportunity to do that. My name is Lisa Rainey. I'm an Associate Director of Admissions at Syracuse, and I do work with discovery students as they're applying and as they're making their decision to take part in this opportunity for first semester study abroad. I'm joined today by my colleague here on campus, Mary Fedorko from Syracuse Abroad, and she also works with students typically once they've been accepted and making that big decision, navigating the visa process and all of those details and getting ready to go. How we'll really structure the program today, as you can see on the screen, we are joined by our colleagues from each of the discovery centers. So we have Dr. Raymond Bach, the director of Syracuse and Strasbourg, Dr. Dieter Kuhl, director of SU Madrid, and Dr. Sasha Perugini, director of SU in Florence. And so each of these individuals are really excited to meet with you today and to share their professional experiences, their insight, and more about each of their centers. So what we won't necessarily cover today is really the application process to discovery, details about the program and classes, flight schedules and things like that. We'll have other opportunities for you to connect with either myself or Mary or with our discovery alumni, other resources on campus for that kind of session. And the reason that we're recording this sort of ahead of time for you today, of course, is that our directors are based in Europe with the time difference. We thought this would be really the best way for you to have a chance to meet with them and to hear from them in a way that doesn't require them doing this in the middle of the night. So we thought this would be a good compromise for you. So we hope that you do enjoy this session. So as you can see here, we'll talk about each of their locations. We'll talk about support services and staff, academic opportunities, travel experiences. You will be ready to pack your bag, I'm sure, by the end of this session. And we'll share contact information and kind of follow-up resources at the end of the session. So with that in mind, I'd really like to hand it over to each of our directors so that they can tell you a bit about themselves, and then we'll go into kind of a moderated discussion about each of those locations. So Dr. Perugini, would you like to begin?
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you everyone for joining and watching this introduction. So I have been the director of the Syracuse University Florence program for 10 years, and I have been working in the international field, international education for over 20 years. Florence is considered a large center, meaning that we tend to host a good number of students. And we have a kind of a campus with 6 buildings where we host classes, studio art, we have lounges for the students, we have an internal coffee shop, and a library of about 16,000 volumes, which is not so common in study abroad operations. We offer many courses, about 180 courses in all fields, and internships, field trips. Field trips are divided by theme, so you have field trips, you can, all school field trips that are covered by the program free. You have field trips that are dedicated to sustainability, to food, to fashion, to history, art history, depending, a lot of extracurricular activities and a lot of support. We have about 20 staff, and we have a person, Amy Klein, who is also a certified counselor, who's entirely dedicated to the first year students, the discovery students. In terms of things to do and explore Florence, of course, it will very much depend on what the scenario will look like in the fall 21. But typically, every class has a lot of site visits. So the experiential component in our program is very important, is paramount. Every class is structured so to really literally go outside as much as possible, combined with the old school field trips. And we also try to embed the independent traveling in the learning experience. And it's as I said, it's a large program. Florence is overall a safe city, a lot to do and explore, easy to travel anywhere in Italy from Florence, mostly by train, and a lot of support, particularly for the discovery students. Thank you.
Dr. Bach, would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here virtually with all of you. I have been director here in Strasbourg, which is located on the eastern border of France with the border with Germany. And I've been director here now for 20 years. I sometimes find that hard to believe myself, but it's true. And when I arrived, we didn't have a discovery program. We didn't have a program for first-year students. And we started this several years ago. It was quite an adventure, and it's one that has really paid off. I think that the opportunity for first-year students to come abroad is really fantastic. It may not be for every student out there, but there are many students who are eager to go out and discover the world and to participate in a study abroad program from semester 1 on. And our experience with our students really has been fantastic. I think they've had not only a wonderful time, but also a very stimulating experience. So from the perspective of study abroad, I know it may feel a little strange to think of going abroad in the first semester, but I really speak very highly of it. And I recommend, of course, that you speak to alumni of our programs so you hear it from students who have actually been at our 3 centers. Strasbourg is not the most famous city in France, obviously, and people will often ask me, why not Paris? And I think there are many great reasons to not be in Paris, though I love Paris, of course. And especially, I would say, for first-year students. Strasbourg is roughly the size of Syracuse, but I would say with a cultural life more like that of Boston. It is a fantastic, it's a beautiful city. It is at the same time very cosmopolitan and a city that you can feel comfortable in right away. And final advantage is that it is home to many of the most important European institutions, the EU Parliament, the Council of Europe, the European Court of Human Rights. So although it's a relatively small city, it has this international feel to it. And if you walk just down the street, you might hear 4, 5, 6 different languages because of the presence of all these European institutions. I will speak a little bit more about the program later, but I really would like to encourage all of you to consider coming abroad in your first semester. It really is an opportunity that you won't want to miss, and one that you will certainly never regret.
Thank you, Dr. Bach. Dr. Kuhl, would you like to speak about your experiences at Syracuse and Madrid?
I'm sorry. This is a wonderful opportunity for me. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Kuhl. I've been working for Syracuse Madrid for about 20 years in different capacities. I started as an adjunct professor. Then I also became the business manager, and I've been the program director since 2012. Madrid the program is almost 50 years old, and it's the 3rd largest Syracuse Abroad Center. We usually have a large spring cohort of about 150 students, but we have a smaller cohort in the fall with an average of maybe 120 students, sometimes including the discovery students. Madrid, of course, is a spectacular city. It's very cosmopolitan, very exciting. I have to say that one of the biggest concerns before starting the discovery program that I heard was that Madrid was such a large city and people were a bit reluctant. But I must also confess that not once have I heard a complaint from a discovery student about this. And this is directly related to the feel of the city. Madrid is a very safe city. It's a very friendly city. And in many ways, it has a small town feel to it, excuse me. We walk everywhere, for example, although the public transportation is excellent. We will talk about the details of the program later, but basically we have two options, the arts and sciences option and the engineering option. And we make it a point of making sure that all the Discovery students start the semester with a study tour that has been organized for them exclusively. And this is before they actually meet the sophomores, the juniors, or the seniors. We have for both the engineering and the arts and sciences options, we have a required and optional courses. And Spanish, of course, is mandatory for everyone. And the Discovery students live with a host family, with a Spanish host family, with one roommate, most of the time walking distance from the center. And this is actually one of the experiences that they enjoy the most. Because we're a mid-sized program, we also have a lot of staff, and every single need that the Discovery students may have will be taken care of. And we also organize multiple activities, whether it's specifically for the Discovery students, or many courses, of course, include activities and cultural visits, and multiple activities with the rest of the students. And of course, I should add that Discovery students will eventually travel on their own during the weekends. And we, of course, will make sure that they have all the information that they need. So I'm very much looking forward to discussing the details of the program. And I should simply say that I think very highly of the Discovery students. These are very adventurous, outgoing, and very hardworking individuals. And I enjoy working with them very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to each of our three directors. Really, for the next format of the session today, Mary and I will be sort of dispatching discussion topics for each of you to respond to as they relate to your experiences and to your centers. I would be remiss, I meant to mention this at the beginning, just to really discuss the current pandemic and how that may affect our study abroad programs. As you may know, currently we're not operating our study abroad opportunities, including the Discovery program. We are very much looking forward to resuming those in the future. And of course, should that resume in fall 2021, as we hope that it will, we'll be following all state and local and university safety protocols and health protocols to make sure your students are safe should they choose to go abroad. So I did mean to mention that at the beginning. We are all very much looking forward to resuming these programs as soon as it is safe. So with that in mind, we will go ahead and have the next 15 minutes or so in really a guided discussion, so that our directors can really address kind of commonly asked questions and concerns that we see from parents and students who are considering this program. So Mary and I will offer up those questions for our directors to respond to. So as we heard from each of you, you've got really decades of experience in working with international education and students who are coming abroad in your years of working with Discovery students. And we've been sending first-year students to Florence since 2008, I believe Strasbourg since 2012, and Madrid since 2015. What qualities have you each seen over those years that really make a student have a successful experience when they pack their bags and they go abroad in that very first semester? And maybe Dr. Bach, maybe you can start us off on that question.
Sure. Well, I think that a student, first of all, they really have to want to come. If you're a parent listening to this, don't force a child to come abroad if they don't want to come abroad. But my experience is that most do want to come, and they're eager, looking to explore the world. My advice to students here is to take advantage of all of the opportunities that we provide for them. I mean, it's really quite extraordinary, the number of things that can be done abroad. Everything from travel to internships to general advice from a very dedicated staff. And I think that if the students are really eager to take advantage of these opportunities, if they're willing to, I know they're all a little nervous in the beginning, and it might be seem like a bit of a reach. But again, if they are willing to jump in, they will find it an extraordinarily rewarding experience. They will learn so much, they will develop so much, they will become more autonomous, more independent, more adaptable. Everyone is going to, and not only Discovery students, this is true for the upperclassmen also, everyone, you're all coming out of your comfort zone. And we realize that. And it takes a bit of courage on your part, and we realize that also. But I think that finally, we will put so many things at your disposal. We're there to help you, to back you up. And with that kind of very strong support system, I feel very sure that the students will be able to have an extraordinarily successful semester.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bach. Dr. Perugini, would you like to talk about that same topic as you've seen in your Discovery Florence students? I think you're muted.
Thank you, Lisa. I want to tell an anecdote that to me really kind of summarizes the kind of attitude that I find in Discovery students year after year after year. It was my first year at Syracuse University Florence. So I was meeting, although as I said, I had been working in this same field and for different universities already for another 10 years. It was my first experience meeting first year students studying abroad. And I remember meeting the first group. It was at the time we had about 30 students. And I was getting to know them and chatting. We were having lunch together. And I asked this young lady, I asked her, so what brings you here? And you know, what aspirations do you have? What dreams do you have? And what is that you would like to do in the future? And she turned and kind of turned and looked at me and had the most serene facial expression that I can think of. And she said in a very simple and very humble tone, and she looked at me and said, I want to become president of the United States. But she said it in a way that it was like, you know, kind of, and to me, that's the attitude that I see year after year after year. Overall, very confident students, daring. They like to bond and they like to create strong ties that stay after many years after this experience. And they typically have some traveling experience or international experience, and they do like to explore. So I almost want to dare to say that it's the perfect mindset to study abroad. And again, that anecdote for me, it's like there's no limit in terms of aspirations and dreams and desires. And of course, not everyone that comes wants to become a president, but to me, it was quite an indicative anecdote.
Well, we look forward to her campaign in the next few years, for sure. And she's almost there, which is great. Dr. Kuhl, what things have you really seen in your students, your Discovery students over the years that sort of set them up for success in that first semester?
I would say that Discovery students are amazing. We all know what the first semester in college implies in the US. And these are individuals who are not afraid to go against the current. As I said before, they are outgoing, adventurous. Sometimes they've lived abroad before. Many times they haven't. For some of them, it's their first time away from home. And for some of them, it's the first time they study in another country. So we also know it's their first semester in college. So these are individuals who have a lot to prove. And it shows they're very hardworking. They go to class every single day. They do all the work. But at the same time, it's obvious that they thought that something was missing from the traditional college experience. They want to see the world. I would also say that once they go abroad or once they do the Discovery program, they want to study abroad again and again, and sometimes even again. As a matter of fact, we've had students who came here as Discovery students and who eventually came back 2 or 3 years later. So These are special individuals. Even if they are not world savvy or they haven't traveled too much, they are very independent and they want to do things their own way. So they're special.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask, what are the benefits do you feel of studying abroad first semester as opposed to the traditional student who goes abroad junior year? Dr. Bach, do you want to start off?
Well, the first real advantage is that you're going to discover so many things that you will have another opportunity to come abroad in a later semester. If you come abroad as a junior or as a senior, well, that's it. That's the only experience you will have. Whereas if you come abroad in your as a first semester, in your very first semester, as Dr. Kuehl mentioned, lots of students actually go abroad again. The Discovery students, I've had quite a few Discovery students who have gone abroad for a summer program, for a semester program, sometimes coming back to Strasbourg, but sometimes going on to one of the other Syracuse centers. And it gives them that kind of breadth of opportunity that you might not have. Also, the other advantage is that sometimes you might be taking a major where down the line, it could become difficult to fit in a semester of study abroad. And because of other, for example, academic obligations or other obligations that you might get involved in. So in that case, this will be a semester that you haven't yet had all those requirements and you're ready to go. And I think that's another thing that you can really take advantage of. So it's kind of a dual advantage for those who this may be the only opportunity. And for others, it will just be a gateway to future opportunities. In fact, I know one Discovery student who started off in Florence, came to Strasbourg, and then ended up in our Central European program. So who did all three? So I think that's the record, but why not?
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I would say that one thing that maybe we don't think about immediately is that as opposed to being one of 400 or 500 students who start college in a big campus, when they go abroad, all of a sudden they realize that they have X number of staff and faculty who are constantly concerned about their well-being, who give them very personalized attention, who will help them design their trips, their coursework, et cetera, which is sometimes a lot more individual attention that the regular first semester student would get in the US. I have to say that in some cases, the students have truly appreciated that. And it's really been a turning point for them, as opposed to being one more individual at the home university.
And I want to add that from a pedagogical perspective, this is the time in which they transition from high school to university, and they learn to study in a different way. So they learn to be present in a different community, different way. And this is also the time in which they face, more public speaking, more harsh deadlines compared to high school. So doing this in a study abroad setting, where they're exposed to some cultural differences, I believe prepares them well for what they will be facing afterwards in the university setting, and in a way stretches their abilities and their resilience even more, so that they're more prepared afterwards, not only for that, but also to finish college and in time, and sometimes even early, and to prepare for a career that often ends up being in international fields. In fact, we have seen that many of the Discovery students end up taking careers that go in international fields. So there are many pros.
Thank you so much for that. So that kind of leads us into the next question, which many parents and students will ask about, the support that's available for students abroad. They're a little nervous about maybe doing something differently, but as you've all kind of mentioned, these are very small supportive groups. So they might range from 15 first-year students to maybe 30 or so, along with upperclassmen at each center. I wonder if each of you could speak to kind of the support systems that are in place with staffing, with special orientation for first year students, health and safety, and kind of access to medical care, and all of those things that sort of fall under health and safety and sort of helping students to acclimate to being a university student and then also doing that in a new country. Maybe Dr. Kuhl, could you start us off?
Absolutely. We have a special orientation for Discovery students. I think I mentioned before that they start with a study tour. During that study tour, they will meet a couple of the faculty who will actually teach the freshman forum during the rest of the semester. The freshman forum is a 1 credit course, which all of the arts and sciences discovery students must take. And in that freshman forum, they will be introduced, in our case, to Spain. They will also be introduced to college, or the college experience. Everything from how to use the library resources to how to write a paper. And eventually, towards the end of the semester, we will also prepare them for the home campus, because in this case, these are individuals who will go back to the US and start their second semester in January at Syracuse. So that's quite a change. In terms of the attention that we give to these students, you also have to realize that our classes are much smaller. So we have classes with 10, 15 students, 20, 25 max. Many times they will get to study with the sophomores, the juniors, the seniors. And from the very beginning, in very small groups, the faculty, of course, know that these are Discovery students. Although I have to say that my experience is that sometimes the Discovery students do so much better than the other students, precisely because they want to make sure that they succeed. And in terms of what we call student life, everything from housing to activities to health and safety, everything we do. We select the best host families for the Discovery students. Many of them get to walk to the school. They have a roommate who is usually also a Discovery student. And everything from health issues, mental health issues, everything is taken care of, in the sense that we make sure that they get the resources that they need. And this is throughout the semester. And of course, since these are smaller programs, we have an open door policy at the program. And so any of the students can walk in and talk to me, or talk to the rest of the staff or the faculty who are around, and they get immediate attention, as opposed to being in a larger setting where they have to make appointments with plenty of individuals before they get to the one who will take care of them.
Thank you for that. Dr. Perugini, could you speak to some of those same support structures and orientation and the ways that you look after your first year students at the Florence location?
So like in Madrid, we do have a dedicated orientation, but the biggest asset is, as I mentioned earlier, Amy Klein, who's a certified counselor, and she is the coordinator of the Discovery program. She follows the students from arrival till they leave, and meets with them regularly and prepares them for the following semester on main campus. We also have robust student life support with 4 people. We typically have homestays. So homestays also act as a support system and a safety net. When it happened that a student had to be hospitalized or broke a bone, families were the first who jumped in to make sure that the students had all the possible, from literally accompanying the students to class and picking up the student and helping, the student with anything needed. Then we have a doctor that comes in-house 3 times a week. So it's very easy to reach a doctor if needed, and to have additional support, both medical and psychological. We have a very well-furnished library, thank goodness, for additional research. And then pretty much every other staff is then available to support the students and to help with the registration for the following semester, which is another important piece that happens while the students are abroad. That's where the academic office jumps in and helps the group of students in deciding which courses to take and ensuring that all the deadlines are met.
Wonderful, thank you. And Dr. Bach, could you speak to that same question for the Strasbourg location?
Sure, I think that really what my colleagues in Florence and Madrid have said also goes for what we do in Strasbourg, from a pre-semester orientation to a very dedicated staff, almost a family atmosphere actually in Strasbourg, as it's a fairly small program. But so in addition to all of that, I would just like to mention that also the role of some of our upperclassmen. And we ask them to play a role, a very important role, which is that of mentors. We select among our students, we actually have students, as in the other programs, who are not only from Syracuse. We have upperclassmen who come from Duke or Johns Hopkins or Amherst College or elsewhere. But we select among our Syracuse upperclassmen students who are interested in mentoring first-year students, the Discovery students, and especially in that freshman forum that Professor Kuhl mentioned a moment ago, where we talk, again, it's this dual mission, which is, on the one hand, we help the transition to college life, to life in France, and we also spend quite a bit of time talking about what life is like on the home campus at Syracuse. And really, the best way to do that is to involve our upperclassmen. They are fantastic mentors. They are so excited. They love sharing, talking about their experience on the campus, and they're ready to lend a hand. And you can see that they really communicate this excitement and information to the students. But I think they also act as mentors in a more general sense. We provide support to the students, but the upperclassmen also provide another kind of support. And I think that if you're a first-year student, if you were on the main campus, you would really not have this kind of contact with upperclassmen. And I think it's an unusual and something really that a great privilege to have. So you have really support from all areas. And again, to return a little bit to the theme is that, yes, in fact, you will probably have more contact with faculty members, with staff members, and with upperclassmen than you may have for the rest of your career on a very large campus.
Thank you. And I'd like to ask one final question. What advice would you have in general for parents and students who are considering going abroad now? Dr. Bach, do you want to answer first?
Sure. I would say think about what your long-term objectives are, what you really want to do in the future, how a semester abroad, whether it be in Florence or in Madrid or in Strasbourg, how that might fit into some kind of larger plan. But on the other hand, the very name of the program is Discovery. And the fact is that you can't plan everything ahead of time. And when you come abroad, it's precisely to discover new opportunities, new horizons. And you have to think that you're going to be open to change and to maybe thinking you thought you were going to go in this direction, but actually after a semester abroad, you say, hey, I think maybe it's that direction that I really want to go in. So give it thought, think how it fits into your larger academic plan. But it's great to be a first-year student where you don't have to decide everything right away. You have so many paths that you can take. There's a famous poem by Robert Frost, two paths diverged in a yellow wood, and you can only take one. Well, I would say, sorry, Robert Frost, but there actually, as a first-year student, there are lots of paths you can take. Maybe as a junior and a senior, there's only one. So I would say jump into it, think about the paths, and be open to that.
That's great. Thank you so much. Dr. Perugini?
I wholeheartedly agree with what Dr. Bach has said, and yes, it's a great opportunity to learn more who you are as a student. It's really the biggest adventure that happens while a student is abroad, is to get to learn oneself much more. And if you learn oneself, and if you learn about yourself more, the magic that happens is that you become more confident and you become more determined and more resilient. So it's such an important, no matter what we say about our program, ultimately the biggest and most intense adventure happens very intimately. And that's why we continue after all these years to say this is a life-changing experience, not just because of what you see, not just because of what you study or who you meet, but because the kind of intimate turmoil that happens within a person is so powerful that really builds so much within you and will stay with you for the rest of your life. I dare to say that, even in this hyper-connected world. So it's really, first and foremost, an intimate adventure. But again, that also happens to have, to happen in sites with phenomenal views, and you get to experience all sorts of things. And I really believe that it prepares you better for your future university career, but also for your future career and profession. And even if you change career 2 or 3 times, as is more common for new generations now, still I believe that the kind of mindset and mind frame you develop while abroad stays with you and has, starts growing, and it's seated in this experience.
Thank you. And Dr., do you have anything to add about advice that you would have for students and parents?
I think my two colleagues have truly summarized it incredibly well. I would simply reiterate something that Dr. Bach said at the very beginning. This is something that you really you need to really be convinced about wanting to do this, because and it needs to be something that you want to experience and something that you're willing to do, even if it's not the traditional way. And then I would simply say, ask as many questions as you can to the staff at Syracuse, and definitely to us, because too many times we see that the things that concern the parents and the students the most are sometimes the easiest ones to solve. And you shouldn't renounce to this experience if we can give you the confidence to do so.
And if I may add to that, the question that the parents should ask themselves, so whether they're ready to trust us in supporting their and we are confident we can do it, but that's another question.
And I think that's a really great question as we sort of wrap up the presentation today. And this was our hope in really getting each of you together to share your warmth and expertise and the admiration that we all have for these first semester students who take advantage of this great opportunity to have a life-changing experience in a way that most students don't necessarily do. So they're bold, they're adventurous, and they're really open to this great opportunity. So I do want to thank each of our center directors for joining us today. It's getting to be evening where they are, so we so appreciate their time and wisdom that they've shared with us today. This is not for our watchers at home. This is not the last opportunity you'll have to learn about the Discovery programs. As I mentioned at the beginning, today's session was really meant for a wider view of what life is like at the centers and what each of our directors really has to offer and the ways that they support our students. But we will have additional sessions coming up where parents and students can learn more about the application, about what it's like to live with a host family, from myself, from Mary, from Discovery alumni who have taken part in that program. So depending on when you're watching this, we will have a live webinar on November 12th. So if you're tuning in before that time, you will get an email invitation link for another Zoom session. If you don't see that and it's getting to be time, you can email me. My email address is below. I'm Lisa Rainey. I work in the undergrad admissions office here, and Mary Fedorko is my counterpart in Syracuse abroad. So if you're seeing this after November 12th, don't worry, we will record that session as well, and we will make that available on YouTube. So you can hear from our current students if you'd like to chat with Discovery alumni or any of the other colleagues that we have on campus. Please let us know. We really welcome your questions. We know that it's a big leap of faith to take part in a program like this, and we hope that that enthusiasm and admiration that we have for Discovery students really came through for each of you today. So thanks again to all of my co-panelists and presenters today, our center directors. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that this session has been helpful, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to seeing you soon.